Have we some sort of giant reptile that's still wandering around the forest country of Australia?
Welcome back to Animal X. Our world is vast and many of its remote areas remain unexplored. So what could be lurking in isolated outback Australia? Some claim it's a reptile of gigantic proportions, one that goes by the name Megalania.
The Komodo dragon is the largest lizard in the world. Along with the Australian parenti, these prehistoric cold-blooded carnivores share a close ancestry with snakes, and like their slithering cousins, they send fear through those who come up against them. But these beasts are mere dwarfs compared to the Megalania lizard, a giant predator who would have been able to outrun a man and tear him to pieces. Thought to be an extinct relic of the megafauna age, the Megalania held court in the vast ancient Australian outback for over 2 million years. Scientists believe this creature last walked these lands over 20,000 years ago. But there are others who believe it's still out there.
Have we some sort of giant reptile, perhaps related to Megalania in some way, that's still wandering around the forest country of Australia?
I think Megalania is definitely extinct. It would be very unlikely that it's alive today.
I suspect that if you met one of these in the bush, you probably wouldn't live to tell the tale.
Animal X travels to Woodstock in the isolated Australian outback to discover the truth about Megalania. Could it still be alive and living undetected somewhere on this massive continent? This is a small sleepy country town just inland from the Blue Mountains range. It was here that Maurice Randall, the local school bus driver, had a heart-stopping encounter with a giant lizard.
Well, we were just driving along there and the kids were sitting in the seat, and then all of a sudden we come around this sweep of curve. God, look what we got here on the road! Big lizard! Yes, it was big. It suddenly got up and moved, and that's when we realised that it was a big lizard. I've never seen anything like that before.
What had Maurice and the children seen on that summer's afternoon? Was it the giant prehistoric lizard, or could it have been a smaller cousin? The Australian Museum in Sydney holds some of the answers. Herpetologist Dr. Alan Greer and paleontologist Alex Ritchie have studied the Megalania and are convinced that it is a fascinating but definitely extinct species.
Megalania, as far as we know, is the largest land-living carnivorous lizard. It lived in the time of the megafauna, when the large marsupials were roaming the country. It was probably the top predator at that time. I don't believe there's any chance that Megalania is still surviving. And we're talking about an animal 6-7 meters long, 600 kilograms, a big beast, predator. It probably became extinct between 20, 30, 40,000 years ago.
Perhaps Aboriginal people, the first settlers of Australia, saw it and had to contend with it as a hazard in the natural environment. I'm afraid it was gone before our time.
But not everyone is so convinced. Rex Gilroy is another witness who has spent many years in search of the Megalania after sighting what he believed to be the lizard in a remote area.
I happened to look up into the scrub and I picked up the binoculars and had a look, and I realised that it was a lizard, but a very large one, anywhere between 20-25 feet in length. I realised what it was, but knowing how dangerous these creatures might be, I was all for keeping at a safe distance.
Could this have been the Megalania?
Well, whatever they've seen, it wasn't a Megalania.
It's very hard to get a very good measurement on these things. It's like the old fisherman story. They're always bigger when they're out in the wild.
Rex Gilroy is determined to present as much evidence as possible to support his claims. he has begun to gather reports of sightings around the country, even managing to make plaster casts of footprints that he believes were made by Megalania.
Let's have a skull, let's have a bone, let's have a bit of the skin that we can test. They must leave the remains somewhere. I'd love to think they were still around. Lots of prehistoric animals we'd love to see, but I don't think we'll ever see one of these.
But despite scientific skepticism, the sightings still continue. Dennis John Maddock believes he may have come face to face with a giant lizard late one night on a deserted road. Unwilling to appear on camera, Dennis put his experience down on paper.
I had pulled over to check my tyres when I saw something on the side of the highway. It was a lizard of incredible size. It was 20 to 22 feet long, and his head was 6 feet off the ground.
Whatever Dennis saw that night, the mystery of the Megalania still continues. Science refuses to believe without hard evidence, and the witnesses maintain that what they saw was beyond comparison. So for now, this gigantic, fearsome creature remains the subject of controversy. Perhaps it lies beneath the ground, mere skeletal remains. Or perhaps it is still out there.
The mysterious tales of the animal world continue to fascinate and perplex us. After all, it's said there are stranger things in heaven and earth than we can think of. You've just seen some of them on Animal X.